Hall Communications provides equal opportunities for all legally qualified political candidates in accordance with FCC regulations. If you are a candidate for public office and would like to request equal time regarding content that has aired, please contact our station directly. We will be happy to work with you to schedule appropriate airtime. For more information, please reach out to the station office. 860-456-1111.
Take a look at the map of United States and you'll find Connecticut.
Take a look at the map of Connecticut and you'll see the place of my birth.
It's the grandest place on earth. Willimantic, Willimantic, my hometown. There's a good main street where good neighbors meet. Miles of smiles keep chasing you around. You'll be living, life's worth living. Once you're here, you'll stay. We have everything to make a man a king in Willimantic, USA.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Windham Weekly here on 1400 WILI and 95.3 FM. I'm the host of the show, Ken Folan, the voice of Windham. My co-host, if you can't see him and you can't hear him, you're in for a treat tonight because he's not able to make it. But in his stay, we have the wonderful Board of Education chairperson, Miss Lynne, who's going to discuss all things education. And you're welcome to call. We ask you to call because people say there's no opportunity to speak, there's no this, there's no... Well, this is your chance, 456-1400. Call in and speak to Lynne, Chairman of the Board of Education here in Windham. Lynne, welcome.
Thank you, Ken. It's really nice to be here. It's been a little bit of a time since I've been here with you. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. Hey, Lynne, why don't you update the people as, a little bit of background about yourself and how you got involved and what you did and what you're still doing. What the heck are you still doing on the Board of Ed?
I like to describe myself as Goldilocks. I've been on all the boards all the major boards in town. I was drafted to be on the Board of Selectmen by Yolanda Negron when she had to step down for health reasons back in the early 2000s. And I served on the Board of Selectmen for a while. Then it became the town council. Then I took a little time off and served on the Board of Finance. Then I was drafted, really, to go on to the Board of Ed to fill a vacant seat. And I've been there since around 2017.
Yeah, you've been very dedicated to the community, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mark and I know what it takes, and I took time off, as you know, as well, and I don't know what I'm doing at this point running again, but I do look forward, hopefully, to serving the community again in a different capacity. Because I too did the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed.
Yeah,
I'm back thinking some other commissions.
It's interesting to be
you learn.
To be on. I sort of viewed it as like a big civics lesson, right? How all the different boards work, what their responsibilities are, and you learn a little bit about a lot of different pieces about what makes a town run. And when I was a kid, I moved 17 times because I had a father who was sort of an unrealistic dreamer. So when I moved here in 1988, when I got married, we chose this town because it was halfway between where we were both working, and we just never left. We raised all three of our kids here. They all went through Windham Public Schools, and we're now grandparents. Yeah. So it's full circle. This is really, I consider, my hometown.
No, without a doubt. I mean, I moved out here myself when I was 21, and honestly, this community. It's like a man. You're here. Mm-hmm. If you get involved, it's like a kid in school, right, Lynne? Mm-hmm. You get them involved in an extracurricular activity, whether be it sports or some other program, they stick to it. They stick to it at the high school, and that's what happened to me. I got involved and haven't looked back, and I do look forward to doing that again. But enough about me.
Well,
My God, I am the voice of Windham. after
enough
all.
about each of us, really. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, a lot going
Sure.
on in town this fall.
Yep, let's talk about the budget. We'll start with I know the one that's most important to you is the Board of Ed, but as a whole, we both know we need to pass a Board of Ed budget and the town budget. So why don't you hit the particulars of the budget, what it means, and I think, and I look at it this way when I look at a Board of Ed budget, if it doesn't pass, right now it won't impact, but it does on a different level. And it's not just the money, it's the morale, right?
Yes.
Because the teachers need that support. And believe it or not, the final product, if you want to call it a product in the terms of a business sense, are the students. They'll hear mom and dad talking. They'll hear the radio show. They'll hear teachers who are scared of losing their positions because the community's not supporting them. And that's the more important impact than the economic dollars to it, is that the students hear and they get discouraged. So I don't want to...
Well, I feel that investing in our schools is investing in our future. We have a lot of people who stay in this town or stay in the area, and investing in our schools is investing in those young people and what they can bring to our community as they grow up and start families and start businesses or work in the town or in the area. They're the future of our country and our state and our town. We have a big challenge here in town. We have a lot of people who are living paycheck to paycheck or Social Security check to Social Security check. We know that a dollar is a very hard thing to come by for many people. And we're trying to run the school district the best we can. But we do need increases in budgets occasionally for the school district. The cost of fuel goes up. The cost of a bus contract goes up. The teachers and the staff who work in the district expect to have periodic increases in their pay. But more importantly, the cost of running the programs that we run for the students in our schools all have money attached to them. And if we have students that have special needs, we can't scrimp on that. We're required by law, really, to provide the services that are prescribed for that particular student. Right now, the budget that our people are being asked to vote on for the Board of Education on September 30th, this coming Tuesday, between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. is your chance to vote on the town budget, which is very important to pass, and the Board of Ed budget. The fiscal year started on July 1st, and we don't have a budget yet. And right now, the budget that's being presented to voters after they turned the budgets down in the May referendum is a 0% increase. We are not getting a penny more than what we had to operate on in our last budget year. So despite increases in costs, we're operating with a 0% budget. And that's put us in a tough position. We've had to cut staff, and you said, Ken, this affects the morale of the people who work in the district. Uncertainty. Some people, don't want to stick around if they're not sure their job will be here next year. We've had to cut staff. We've tried to stay as far away from impacting the students as possible. We have been lucky. We've gotten a few extra sources of income that we didn't expect from the legislature.
From the state legislature.
From the state legislature. So we didn't have to make as many cuts as we might have had to. But there are a couple things that are on the line still. Middle school sports. We went ahead and decided to fund middle school fall sports. But unless we figure out a way to close about a $161,000 gap, we may not be able to have winter and spring sports. And we've also put on hold field trips, and we've put on hold all the clubs that operate in the schools. And so that's pretty stark. And so I urge voters to get out and support this 0% budget. I wish we were getting more for the students and for the staff and for the district as a whole. But if that's what we have to work with, we'll do our best.
Now, Lynn, at a 0% vote, it makes no sense to vote no because you can't go any lower because of your MBR. Mm-hmm. Correct? So I think the community needs to know that. It would be very positive to support it. And again, that goes towards the morale of the schools, individual families, and the students and the staff that are in these buildings. If you want the kids to care, you want them to show up on time, and I'll drone about, and I've been, when I was on the Board of Ed, people yelled at me and screamed at me, and I'm not afraid of it. The parents is where it all starts, right? You had these children. You want them educated. The school system is not a daycare program. So you need to not just support them in those first few years at elementary school where everyone knows the numbers are, the parents show up to all the events, they show up to parent-teacher conferences, but then that number just dwindles at the middle school. And tonight is a great example because at the high school, you got parent-teacher conferences there tonight. And
it's open house tonight.
Open house.
Yeah.
And the numbers that will show up there just drop like a rock. And that's a shame because especially at the high school, you get a brand new remodel, show it off to the community that, we've paid for that. So let's go look at it and appreciate what's done and what your children, the environment in which we created for a better learning experience.
Well, I just want to go back to the point you made. I don't know whether the listeners know what you mean when you say MBR, but it is the state statute on a minimum budget requirement. And if there are some taxpayers in town who have said to me, well, why can't we cut even more? Why can't we go below 0%? But under state law, we're not allowed to go below 0%. And I don't know whether people realize that if for some reason we did go below 0%, the town of Windham would have to pay twice the amount that we go below 0% in fines to the state. So basically, any money that would be cut from the budget would be paid in double to the state, and we'd get no benefit here in town for our school district.
Thanks for bringing that up because that's important. I mean, it's almost as if, it isn't as if. It is the state knew, the legislatures knew, the governors knew along all these years when they put that into play that, you can't not fund below because every now and then the Board of Ed has to work with the unions and I've done it when I was on the chair where teachers aren't getting step raise increases or they're being frozen on their pay and this and that and most of the time, I think I did it 3 times in my tenure, the teachers didn't get raises and it's not something I'm proud of, but I'm proud of the fact that we were able to negotiate that and there was an understanding that we do the best we can down the road to help them because if you're working for a corporation or a retail outlet or whatever the case is, I think you're looking for your raise. Teachers are looking for a raise because their cost of living hasn't gone down; it's gone up.
Their food costs, their rent costs,
you got to look at your own home.
Mortgage costs.
The cost, the rate of inflation is hurting the most vulnerable at this point. People with the one paycheck coming in, no paycheck the elderly, and it's starting to hit the middle class. And when it hits the middle class even harder, because I think it will, because if you don't own your own home and you're paying these new outrageous rents, or if you want to buy your own home and you're young, it's getting. I don't know how kids are doing it, and everyone needs a car, and the price of cars are the price of my first house right now. So it's difficult. So you can't say, the teachers are overpaid because I know for a fact that if my wife and I were a greedy couple and didn't care about the kids, that she won't leave this community for nothing when it comes to the school district. And I know there's a lot. She's just one person, but there's a lot of them like that who could go down to one town down, and their pay is about 10 to 12 grand more a year, same job, and maybe an easier population. I don't know these days. This has always been a difficult population to work with, but not an impossible population to work with. I go back to my point. You've got to get all the parents not just engaged, but not afraid. That was the big thing back in the day, was the people who were coming into town were afraid because it was a government building the schools, and they were afraid to get the answers they really needed. And I think Lynne, and I've watched it over the years, and all the superintendents, especially Tracy. I mean, I'm new to Dr. Gomero, the new superintendent, who will be our guest next week. Have done as much as they can. Dr. Ortiz back in the day have done all they can to make it as welcoming as possible. And I think you could speak to that, Lynne.
Well, I think that. Thank you, Ken. I know you're having Dr. Iris Camaro on, the new superintendent that started on July 1st next week. So she'll get to talk more about this, but she's really hit the ground running. I think since she's been on board as our superintendent, she's probably gone to more. She's gone to the Third Thursdays. She's gone to the Latin Fest downtown. She's gone to the community events in the community, gotten out to meet people one-on-one, and she can talk more about the kinds of things that she's doing to start some advisory committees of parents and students and community members to help her have a touchstone, right? Have and hear from people who are working in the district, going to school in the district, whose children are in the district, about what's going on and what people need. And I encourage you to ask her to talk more about what she's doing to get into the community and get input from people.
Well, I could tell you that, Mark and I both have the passion for education, especially public education here in Windham. It's just something that's, my family's been in it for generations, and I, it motivated me to do what I did with the Board of Ed, and it's important to us that the community, if they have questions, is to reach out. And tonight's a good chance to reach out. Talk to Lynne, Chairman of the Board of Ed, 456-1400. Next week, Dr. Gomero, 456-1400. Call. These people are available, and they, and trust me, the Board of Ed, as much as some people don't understand, it's volunteers.
Right.
It's volunteer, because people used to say they're going to get my job, and I said, the one that puts food on my table. Because, as a chair of the Board of Ed, I know for a fact 15, 20 hours a week, because back then I did like 3 or 4 expulsions in a night, but it was, the hours you put in, Lynne, are monumental, and of course during the day you're getting phone calls and emails as a crisis that happens, and so it's citizen volunteers like Lynne and many of the others that sometimes get criticism, but that's okay. That's what we're all about. We'll take the good with the bad. But so for the budget for the Board of Education is this Tuesday. What am I saying? This Tuesday, September 30th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the 3 normal voting places, and you'll be voting on that in the town budget, which we hope all passes and we can all just move forward.
I think we have a caller.
Hello, caller. Welcome to Windham Weekly Show. I'm Ken Follen, your host.
Hey, so the reason I'm calling is I heard, you guys are talking about parental involvement. It drops down as you get older, as the kids get older into the middle school, then the high school. And I agree with you 100% on it. We need more parental involvement. And that brings up my question is, how do you expect to gain more parental involvement when you're taking community schools out of the area, the inner city area, where parents walk their children to schools and walk to plays and they walk to all these things? What's going to happen there? It seems like them parents are going to lose out now. The less fortunate people in town, if you take them, consolidate and move into the Windhams.
Okay, well, you've jumped to another big hot topic for Windham Public Schools, which is the issue of the proposal that the Windham Board of Ed has put forward that will be up for a vote on November 4th during the municipal election, the same day as the municipal elections. Voters in town will have a chance to vote up or down on whether or not we consolidate our existing elementary schools into one new state-of-the-art elementary school. Studies have shown that it's really important to have a vibrant, coordinated education for our children. And what we are finding now, as we're getting fewer elementary school age children coming into the system, that we have had, and we just closed Windham Center School because we could not afford to keep that school open and meet the needs of the entire district with the existing budget resources that we had. It didn't make sense to have a very small elementary school with maybe one second grade class in it. If there are issues in that class, there is no place for change or growth. And so the idea about having a consolidated school where all the second graders from the district will be together in one school gives more opportunity for teachers and students to work together on project-based learning, which has been shown is more productive for outcomes for the students. But I understand your concern about how we get parents to go to one school. Let's be frank. If your child has entered the lottery to be in the Compañeros program, they're going to North Windham School, and they may live right in downtown Willimantic. Kids are being bused from all over the district to that school. There are children from Windham Center who are being bused to Sweeney School and to North Windham School. I mean, the fact of the matter is that except for in the very local instance of Natchog, there aren't that many students who are walking to school on a regular basis. Sweeney students walk to school.
Lynne, I'm just going to interrupt for a minute, and I'm going to explain something to the caller in terms of a business. So the business model of a consolidated school is catching fire across the country for efficiencies that Lynne mentioned, which I think any business person would appreciate, the cost savings down the road. Again, we're not talking this year, next year. Once it's in full use, to have all your resources in one room, one building.
All the special
all
programs.
the specials, everything's provided, because that's the new business model. And there's, over the years, going back 30, 40 years, going back to the days with one-room schools, the business model has changed. The business model for future in education, especially at the elementary level at this point, especially in small communities, is to consolidate. So Windham is ahead of the curve, and I, for one, am in support and very proud of the Board of Ed for going in this direction.
I mean, they did do it recently in Mansfield. We toured school districts around the state where they consolidated the schools. The issue of transportation for Windham and Willimantic residents, and I want to be clear, it's not all Willimantic residents. There are people in the Windhams who don't have access to transportation all the time, is a big issue. And I think if we get approval from the voters on November 4th to build a new consolidated school, and children have to travel outside of their neighborhood to go to this school, the Board of Education has been talking about what kind of provisions we need to be put in place to provide some options for people, such as maybe we have a minivan that can drive people to parent-teacher conferences. Maybe we provide some vouchers for people to get a ride. Maybe we have a bus route that goes on the days when there are special events at the school where we can pick up parents and their students who can't drive themselves to the school. I think there are creative options to deal with it, and it's something that we need to deal with. But again, I want to emphasize that this is ultimately up to the voters, and the voters can make a decision about this on November 4th, and they can check out the Windham Public Schools website for information about the proposed consolidated schools. And there's a whole section of that on frequently asked questions. We had 5 forums around the town in the spring, and we took all the questions that people asked us in those forums, and we put all the information up on our website. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, that's a great. And now that you've mentioned the rides and all the ride share and the buses, if you guys could put that out so that the people that are voting will know about this stuff and the cost associated to the taxpayers with all that.
Well,
that would be great.
I don't think we haven't figured out a budget for all that yet. We have to get through getting the school approved, and then it would take probably 4 years or so for the school to be built. So we have time to work with the community on how to accommodate those needs and how we budget for it. But thank you for asking the question.
So we wouldn't know the bottom line and what we're going to be paying for before we vote for it.
Well, we do know that we put a proposal into the state for a state grant to help with the cost of the building. That proposal went into the state on June 30th. Of course, nothing happens if the voters don't approve it. But right now, the estimated cost of construction of a new consolidated school, which would take North Windham School, Natchog School, and Sweeney School and consolidate them into one school, would be about $140 million, I believe, maybe a little bit more, 144 maybe, and then the estimated town cost for town taxpayers would be about $20 million, because the state would be $28 million, because the state would be reimbursing the town for the bulk of the cost, about 80% of the cost of the building. So that would be spread out over time through bonding and paid through local tax assessments when we do pay our property taxes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And likely, Lynn, by the time, if the community votes for this in November and it gets approved, then obviously the hotter numbers come through. But more importantly, I would think in another 4 years, there's probably a few other projects that fall off the payment bonding. And so I can't imagine the annual increase or impact be that dramatic when you have other bonding payments being off the books.
Well, we also have to think about avoided costs.
Exactly.
You know, one thing we're about to hand over the emptied Windham Center School to the town.
Right.
Now the town council can make a decision about whether or not they sell that building or develop the land into something else, or what happens with that building. Maybe it could go back on the tax rolls.
Exactly.
And bring in revenue for the town somehow. But then we won't be paying for the cost of a roof to one of these old buildings. We won't be paying for some things that would be required for a school to be operating in those buildings if we're keeping them open as schools.
Right. I mean, Sweeney and North Windham School and Natchog have served the community well, as did Windham Center. When I was on the board, it was all hands on deck with Natchog, with the roof and the masonry, and we actually patched it together enough. I remember it was Larry Mooney's company, and I was on top of that roof. Not that I have anything to do with construction, but I looked at it firsthand, so we knew what was going on. And you can't ask. The building's over 100 years old, and the technology the infrastructure just isn't there. The HVAC systems aren't there to make the temperatures on the
Right.
inside conducive to education. We're not talking about the days of the one-room schoolhouse anymore, and there are needs that are unbelievable for individual students. So the specialists, I'll talk about special needs students in particular. The one-on-one rooms that you still need so that child is getting its IEP, its individual education plan done properly in a space that's safe and conducive to education, to get that child as well educated and prepared for life as possible. So you can't just put up classrooms in an office and this is a school now. I mean, those days are gone, and the technology is the way of the future. The young, you go to the high school and see those younger teachers. They've already adapted to that because of Eastern, or whatever college they went to. But in Eastern, we get a lot of student teachers from, and they know that stuff inside and out before they even step into our classrooms. And now they're walking in, and these classrooms are state of the art. And I've owned a house from the 1700s in this town. It's fun, but not after a while. It's time. Natural, you can't squeeze any more out of it. In Sweeney, I remember from back 30 years ago when I was in the board, that when Kim Swachenko was the phys ed teacher there, and we took a tour, and she showed us her office inside a shower.
Right.
That's a morale boost every day to go. You're going to go into an old gym shower, and that's where your desk was. In North Windham, when my own children went there, it's seen its day, and you've got septic, you've got you've got all these other issues that it had, and roofing is going to cost us. So you add it all up. By the time this other school, if it were to go through, is built, A, the technology again is going to change, but B, the infrastructure in these buildings, it's just not conducive, and that's why I think the renovate like new cost more than if you had torn down that building and built new.
Right.
That was a decision that was made.
Right. We did look into whether to take one of our schools and expand at that site. But given the population of students that we'd need to accommodate in the new school and requirements about physical space for the school, as well as parking requirements have changed over the years.
And parents, if we have more parents there.
And outdoor play and outdoor learning opportunities. I mean, why shouldn't every child in Windham Public Elementary Schools get the same opportunity to that the kids who go to Barrows School and have a newer state of the art building? It's getting older now, but it's a newer state of the art building.
You can't look at this project and say, "Oh my God, it's going to cost $120 million to the town," and think that's the be all and end all. You got to look at least a 5-10 year plan.
And it attracts people to a town if you have a vibrant, good school district.
Matt Rupar is here today, and he probably heard he's tired of hearing it when I tell everyone. The Windham Public Schools is the biggest economic driver in the community, right? It's your one of the biggest employers, and it impacts the value of your homes tremendously. And that's what we need to do, is keep focus on not just that, if you want to look at just the dollars and cents, but like I said, if we need to equal the playing field. I mean, some schools will have a handicapped outdoor play area. Others won't. Some have a nice wood chip, some has a rubber, some it's dated. Let's get a clean sweep here and get it done. Get the staff in place that you're going to have. You're going to have, because not everyone's going to retain their positions because the population is down. Your costs are going to be down in the long run from operating 4 individual buildings instead of 1.
We won't have to have staff, as many staff to maintain one building as we would for
the plowing.
right, or plow, or take care of the lawn, or manage the cafeteria. And we will also be able to consolidate some administrative positions. We'll still need the same amount of teachers, right, as we had in the different buildings. But we will have a lot more flexibility about what to do. And one of the interesting things, Ken, is if you look at on our website and you look at the architectural renderings of what this school could be like, you'll notice that if your child needs to go to see the social worker or needs to go to a special ed breakout session or things of that sort, all of those rooms are in little pods with the grade. So the kid isn't having to, walk across the school. They can stay in their pod with the other kids in their grade. They can do activities with kids in their grade as appropriate. The teachers have room to actually do projects together. And so when we toured the other consolidated schools, it was eye-opening to see how you can design schools these days to be much more accommodating to the needs of a young child and the imagination of a young child, and then the creative and educational needs that are being provided by the staff.
My nephew's a superintendent. I won't say what town.
Oh, really? That's a tough job.
Yeah, he out in Massachusetts, and it's a more middle class community. But they just did that. It was a year ago. They just finished consolidating 3 schools into one, and I went in on the weekend when I was down visiting my brother. Went to my nephew's house, and that's where I got the whole thing about. Well, this is a new business model, and because it's not because I've seen it in Mansfield, I've seen it here, I've seen it in Rhode Island in a few spots, but I haven't been in one yet.
Oh,
And
yeah, it's very different.
It was amazing. Obviously, just like the middle school when it was brand new, it was like a new advertising. Right? The energy just boosts up, and the kids and the teachers, and they maintain and they keep it.
Well,
and that's what's going on at the high school.
It's
right
going
now.
on at the high school
It's
right
going
now.
right now.
The staff is very excited to be and feels valued.
Sure.
To be in such a lovely building. And then the Early Childhood Center,
Yes, yeah.
which is part of the high school campus, is state of the art. I mean, there are sensory rooms for kids and all sorts of different things that the children can use to develop and grow.
I was unexpectedly put on that building committee, and that was another. You talk about serving. That was another one of those experiences where you go, God, I never knew. This much went into these decisions.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
I want to get back to this. So remember, November 4th is when the question will be on the ballot on whether or not we pursue this. I urge people to make sure you pay attention when you go to vote, and you just don't vote for just the candidates. You vote on this question too. I can't tell you how to vote, but I can tell you how to find out more information by going to the Windham Public Schools website.
I can tell you how I want you to vote.
I can't.
I can. See, I really want people to support this, because you're not just supporting that, you're supporting the community and the kids in long term. And I think it has to happen. And I won't. My co-host, who's again not able to be here, although he's
on the board of ed.
He's on the board of ed, so he can't say too much either, which is great because I don't like listening to him sometimes. But even though he's a good friend, but I'm urging you to go out and exercise your right to vote. I'm hoping you're with me and a lot of other folks in this town who think that this is a worthwhile thing, and we can get the process started and get numbers and firm things up, because people want to know numbers firm. Well, the only way is to get this portion through and we move forward. The town budget, just as important. I don't think we can afford any more cuts. If you talk, we had the police chief and the fire chief, and we've had the public works director here. I don't think we can afford to lose another person or anything on their line item budgets as well. I think our public employees here in this community give as much as they can, and people aren't complaining about a lot of things as far as that goes. And I think it's time to give back and support them so they can feel at ease in their positions and make hiring easier, especially with the police department. They're still shorthanded, and I know the school isn't 100%. Filled because they just can't at this point. So anyway, I'm not going to go on the budget anymore until maybe the end. We talked about the new school. I mean, we're at the point now where you've found some property and you're
Yeah.
and that's ready to go. And now it's a budget. Now it's a question coming up. I want to touch on one thing that's come up publicly a lot, and I mean touch base on it because I know it's you guys just passed the bullying policy last night, so it's new. Probably not, probably just implemented today. But can you get an understanding of that for the community?
Well, I just want to correct that.
Sure.
We didn't pass a new policy.
Okay.
I want to acknowledge that bullying is almost an epidemic across the country, across not just in public school districts, but in society and life. And it was very interesting. The state has a requirement that every school district have a comprehensive school climate plan and implement school climate work in each building in the district, as well as coordinate it across the district. And in that, there's clarification from the state about what is the actual definition of bullying versus, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, but hopefully the superintendent, when she's here next week, can share more about that. There's a difference between using your power over another person to intimidate them versus bullying. And at any rate, it's a very serious matter. And the district is very focused on improving school climate across the school district so that children and students and staff feel safe in the buildings, want to be in the buildings and want to be in school. So a rigorous educational expectation for our students, attendance expectation for our students, especially at the high school level. We do need to do more work because since COVID, students have been less compelled to attend. Some students have been less compelled to attend school on a regular basis, on a consistent basis, I would say.